Welcome to Founders Field Notes, where you can learn from founders how to be a founder. I'm Jason Klug, founder and CEO of Klugonics Group and serial entrepreneur. This week's episode was a very exciting episode about the founder, Bennett Maxwell of Dirty Dough. And I'm sure you've heard about all the cookie wars going on between Bennett's company and then a big cookie company that ended up turning Bennett's company into another big cookie company. So Dirty Dough is a cookie franchise company that has gone in the last few years to now close to 300 locations that are under contract. It has scaled so rapidly. So in this episode, you get to hear how Bennett was able to do that and how he scaled it, not only with his sales experience, which you'll hear about, but also how he took the operations of cookie making and then intelligently built a way to scale across the country, eliminating steps in the cookie making process that his competitors are not doing. You'll learn how the media may have skewed things in that cookie war and how different Dirty Dough actually is in the grand scheme of things. So check out this week's episode where we see some dirty conflicts turn into some dirty dough. Where'd you start? You know, like when you were a kid, were you selling cookies as a kid?
I was just dreaming about cookies.
You know?
No, I was selling things though. You
have a sales background.
Yeah. No, like elementary, I was like selling. We did lemonade stands.
Yeah.
Then we upgraded to shave ice on the corner.
Cool. Yeah. Talk about some high margin.
But the shitty shaved ice, you know, that's just like crushed ice with syrup that goes straight to the bottom.
Yeah.
But
it's water. You're selling expensive water.
Yeah.
My buddy Danny, you know, he's an entrepreneur. He has like fast casual restaurants. And I remember he was telling me when he was either in college or after he finished his MBA, shaved ice stands were his thing because the margin is ridiculous. It's
it's just sugar and water.
Like you just a little splash of sugar water and you're selling it for like $7.
Yeah.
You know, it's hot in Hawaii.
We were doing that in elementary, sold some candy bars in elementary too. Got kicked out of
did you have to acquire the machine then to do the shaved ice?
No, yeah. I mean, probably my mom bought it for me for like $20.
That's
you know?
sweet.
It was like the little, I'm telling you, the shitty machines.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, elementary, just selling stuff. Like bringing the king size Costco candy bars to school to sling some candies, dude. I did actually work for an actual shaved ice company in high school.
Okay. So you got some real world
Hawaiian style shaved ice. Yeah. That was my
one of those
food
shacks
experience.
in like a Smith's parking lot.
Exactly that.
Okay. Cool.
I helped build it and then we wheeled it out there and post up.
That's great.
In the summer.
Okay. So that's a little taste of, building the business a little bit. You get a little, versus just showing up, interviewing and starting. You gotta build the
freaking trailer.
That's cool. I like that. All right. So you sales background, as a kid, hustling, but is that where you started your career? Did you go right out of high school into sales jobs?
Yep.
What were you selling?
I did Cutco knives.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was my first real job.
That's a good one. You can make some good dough doing that, right?
Yeah, I did.
No pun intended.
I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, Cutco, $15 an hour? I was like, heck yeah.
But you get commission, right?
Yeah, so it's $15 an hour or commission, whatever one's higher.
Okay.
So it was good. It's high pressure sales for sure.
Yeah, it's door to door?
Not door to door. It's referral based.
Okay.
So you show up to Granny's house and you say, Grandma, they pay me just to present to you, so just listen. And then you present, but the product was good. I mean, they're like $2,000
I have a
set of
Cutco
knives.
knife. Yeah, I've seen them.
So anyways, you present and you're like, go get your knives. And then you trying to cut a rope with their knife. And then you cut a rope with the Cutco knife. And you do a few other little, the scissors, you cut a penny. You bring pennies and you cut pennies with them.
Okay.
You're going to cut a penny.
I've known a couple Cutco salesmen, and there's definitely some interesting tricks, like name dropping.
Okay,
right?
so after the presentation, you ask them if they want to buy anything. And that's not where the high pressure comes in. The high pressure comes in. It's, hey, Jason, thanks for letting me present to you. Here's a piece of paper. Write down 10 people that I can go present to. I'm saving up for my mission.
Oh,
and then
drop the vision card.
Yeah,
okay,
got to get that pity.
Yeah.
So you're gonna help me out, right? You're gonna write down your 10 names, and you're like, whatever. I'm gonna write down these 10 names. Probably never gonna call them. And then I go, okay, cool. Start calling them, and I don't leave till you call the names. And then I just grab the phone from you, and then I set my own appointment up.
Wow. That's hustle.
It was a hustle.
That's great experience. I believe that one of the things to become a good salesman is to get all of those no's. You know what I mean? Like you got to get, like once you're kind of numbed up to those no's, you're never afraid of them. So you'll go after anything. And that's why, like return missionaries do so well at sales because they get so many no's.
Yeah.
And they get the door slammed in their face, and they're
hit the next door, hit the next door, hit the next door.
And they're scrappy, so they're willing to sleep on a foam pad on the ground or whatever. So they know they have to build up the momentum, and they'll have the patience to do so. And I always thought that was a good step in the sales process, and that goes like what Vivint, stuff like that.
Yeah,
which you did Vivint too, right?
Yeah, that's what I did after. So I did the Cutco. Went on a mission to Tijuana.
So you did do that. So you got a bunch of no's there.
Got a bunch of no's there. Cutco definitely. I mean, you read the mission manual, and it's a sales manual. You know. So then you come home, and then everybody recruits you to do the summer, and you feel great. You're like, oh, like now 5 companies for this. Yeah, like 5 different companies are making me offers and this and that. They really pamper you, and you're like, I'm just an idiot. I don't even know what I'm doing. The first company I went out with was. It was actually a security company. Okay. I did, not Vivint though. I was doing installs. Okay. Went out to Baltimore, living the high life. All right. It's pretty sketch. But my buddies didn't want to do sales. They wanted to do the more secure thing, which was installs. But it wasn't secure because you still have to wait for the salespeople to sell. And they all sucked. Yeah. So you would upsell and stuff? It wasn't a good first half of the summer. And then I called my buddy who was selling pest control in California. And he's like, dude, I've made 10 grand. I was like, you made 10 grand in 2 months? That's that's good. I'm like, at that age? Yeah. I was like, dude, like, can I come to, where can I apply? Yeah. I didn't know they just accept anybody that breathes, And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, there might be a spot for you. I think a spot just opened up, Yeah, that's the MLM aspect of it. I was like, bro, if you give me a spot, I will drive tomorrow. I'll leave tomorrow. And he calls me back. He's like, hey, dude, you're in. And I was like, literally left the next day. Baltimore, drove to California. Wow. It took me a few days because I broke down a few times, picked up some hitchhikers. It was a good journey. Okay. But finally got there, hit the ground running, and I only sold for 2 months, but it was great. I mean, I was the top rookie because I studied so hard. I'm just like, I'm going to memorize everything. I'm going to freaking... one of the things that I learned from Cutco was when I got hired, they're like, hey, $15 an hour, show up to training next week. But it wasn't $15 per hour. It was $15 per presentation. Okay. But it takes 30 minutes to an hour to do the presentation. Okay, cool. I'm going to go train next week for 40 hours, 40 times 15. I was like, sweet, I'm going to make some good money next week. No, you don't get paid for training. And I'm like, these bastards. Yeah. This is a freaking scam. Yeah. But I ended up doing it because I spoke with my dad, and I was like, I'm not going to go freaking train for free for 40 hours. Like, what is this? And he's like, no, people pay a lot of money for sales training. Like, if you can go get free sales training, even if you're not taking the job, you should go do it. So I kind of switched my mindset. That's actually a good point. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this isn't unpaid training. This is free training. Free sales training. Free sales training. You can apply anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. So that changed my mind. And then I definitely carried that when I was doing door-to-door sales. I was like, what is the top guy doing that I can't learn? I didn't buy into the aspect of like born salespeople or whatever. Like, I mean, there's people with sales tendencies, But it's like, I never really loved talking to people, but I'm like, but I can learn it. Yeah. It's really just being confident. And when somebody gives you an objection, knowing how to acknowledge that. Yeah. And then, build on it. Yeah. So I don't want pest control because I don't see the bugs, or I don't want to pay for the services in the winter, or let me talk to my spouse. And I just memorize like 10 different rebuttals to every single objection. Because on my own time. Especially when you do that many, you start to see repetitive things that you just know what to say. So, I mean, that mindset though really helped me excel. So I did pest control for that half the summer. Then I did a full summer. And then I did Vivint for a few years and solar. But every single thing I just learned, I just always had the focus of what am I learning? Like, how am sharpening the saw, not how many cells did I get today.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're kind of just always picking the positives out, right? Like, it's like, crap, I didn't sell anything today. But it's like, but I learned how to overcome these 3 objectives. Or I learned that when they say, give me their card, that means F off, Like, you're always learning different things. So in all of those, because I had that mindset, I think I allowed me to excel. I was just focusing on the learning. Now, the money was great as well. It was a lot more than I thought I would ever make. I was I wanted to be a doctor. And then I made more money in my first full summer as a 22 I think I was 22, 23 than I would have made after going to college for 8 years and residency for 3. And I did it in the summer. I was like, okay, screw this school thing.
It's all performance-based. The thing is, too, is there's like, depending on the sales position and what you're selling, there's like no cap, right? It's like, the company's happy to pay if you're bringing the deals.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it with my sales team. It's like, I'm not going to really cap you. It's like you just...
Yeah, you bring more value.
Bring it, we're good.
You get paid more.
Yeah.
So that's all I've ever done is just that. I mean, I worked that shaved ice job in the summer. But other than that, the cut codes, it was pretty much all commissions because I was selling. Now, but you did kind of have that safety net, but I was always getting paid off commissions.
Yep.
And then door to door, straight commission. And that's all I ever did.
One thing I remember about the Cutco were like the follow-ups, like the knife sharpening follow-ups, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you'd do where you'd have, check in and be like,
let me come by and
sharpen your knives?
But I probably only did Cutco for like 2 months.
Oh, okay. So not long enough to do it.
It was just a few months to get
Free
me by until I went to my mission.
Do a little test,
Yeah, I mean, I did it up until my mission. I just only had a few months.
That's cool.
But I do remember them pitching that, go to older customers, sharpen their knives, and then upsell.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any older customers.
We got some new products. Yeah. I mean, Cutco knives do last a while. Like we have a few, and they're pretty good. But that's neat. So you're moving solar, you're moving this, that, and the other. So then, when did you? When was the first time you go? Well, I could sell anything. I'm going to find something to sell on my own. Like your first product or your first business.
Yeah. So I did solar in 2019 for like 2 months, and I was working 4 to 8, making twice as much money as they did with pest control.
Selling your own product, or is this?
I was selling. Sunrun was a solar company.
Yeah,
just through one of their dealers. Enlight, anyways, is in Sacramento. But in 2 months, working. I mean, and I don't know. I had 2 kids then.
Yeah, they're big sales too. Like each project, it's like $15,000 or something like that. You're usually
maybe like 25, 30.
Yeah, high price point,
probably average.
Yeah,
I was selling that and barely working because the pest control, it's a grind. Like you wake up at 9 a.m. for your you show up to your meeting at 9 a.m. You go hit the doors, you go get a lunch, then you go knock till dark. I mean, you're pulling long days. Well, with solar, I was working 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. I was working 20 hours. I was working part-time. I was making more money. I was like, this is freaking sweet.
Yeah.
And then one of my brothers, I think he's 13 years older than me. He was in Idaho and he's like, have you ever tried to do this online? I was like, I don't freaking know anything about online stuff. And he's like, let's try it. So we hired some people out of the Philippines. We paid some dude to get us some leads, trained the people of the Philippines to, set the appointment, get the utility bill. They would confirm the appointment. They'd throw it on my calendar and I would just show up to a confirmed appointment.
Interesting.
Why'd you click on the ad? It's because they tell you everything they want. Well, why haven't you gone solar yet? They tell you other objections and you're like, oh, cool. Within like 10 minutes, I have to sell because I know what they want and what they don't want, and I'll customize
they already
it.
Showed interest too. You're not, knocking blind, right?
So we did that. And I think we did like a pilot of 18 appointments, and of those 18 appointments, I closed 16 of them on the first time. And then one of them required a follow-up and the last one we never closed.
Yeah.
And these are like, you're making like 8 to 10,000 a piece. And you're like, this is stupid easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because it's such a good product in California. It's very market-based. Like I don't have solar in my homes here in Utah.
So were you sourcing the panels and everything?
No.
And doing that so that you were working with the company you're just
so that was Enlight. And then when my kind of teamed up with my brother, and he's like, you want to let's just do this ourselves so we can just go sub out the install, So I was like, okay, this is...
The hardware is very accessible at this point.
Well, we still didn't have to buy the hardware. To start a solar company, it's like you're the installer and you have the hardware. And you're like, how much do you need if I go sell this job? And they say, well, per panel or per watt, we need to make $2.30.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to go sell that sucker for $4.50 and I keep the spread.
Yep.
So they give you a baseline or a red line.
So
and anything you sell above that, it's yours.
So you still set up your, an LLC and stuff like that, or
yes.
And so
what we did is we moved to San
brand, your own website, and then it doesn't matter who's doing the install.
Yeah, and then we just subbed out the install to whoever.
Cool.
So that was the first time I actually did a real year-round job. And my wife's like, well, if we do it, I want to live in San Diego. So I was like, okay, well, cool. Let's go to San Diego. So we moved to San Diego. Yeah, we had our first recruit in January of 2020. So right before COVID. But because we were doing door knocking, we were also doing online. So when COVID hit, it wasn't that big of a deal. We just pivoted more online. I knew the sales. And my brother knew the business, and he taught me a lot about it.
Yeah, and he understood the unit economics and the money and stuff like that, or you both have to do that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was more the money guy and the projections, all that, but he was the marketing and the structure. And right when we started the business, have you ever heard of the book E-Myth Revisited? Talks about the E-Myth is the entrepreneur myth, that the average entrepreneur, in this guy's opinion, and I'd agree with him, isn't, well, under his definition, like a true entrepreneur. It's, I'm good at plumbing, I'm a good baker, so I'm going to start a bakery. But it's like, well, just because you're a good baker doesn't mean you can run a bakery. Just because you're a good plumber doesn't mean you can run a plumbing business. So he teaches you in this book on how to go from a small business to a scalable business. And it's all about replacing yourself. So day one of the business, what do you imagine your company, what do you want your company to look like in 3 years or 5 years? You have the CEO and the CMO, and then you're filling out your org chart, and so like for solar, you have a sales regional, sales manager, sales rep, and you just put your head in the whole org chart. So I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why are we doing this? It's just me and you, Brent. Like, we don't need to do this. And he's like, we're doing it. So we made the work chart, and then I started out as a sales rep, and I developed all the this is the pitch, these are the hours, this is the commission structure, these are the bonuses, whatever. And then once you build that out, you hire your first sales rep, and then I promoted myself to sales manager. Right now, I'm the manager. And how does manager get paid? How do they incentivize sales reps? How do they? What are their hours? What does the training schedule look like? Once you build that out, then you either promote the sales rep to a manager or you hire a manager, and then you go up to regional. And then, so we did that activity, and within a year, we both worked ourselves out of the business. So everything was just going, and which was cool. And then Dirty Dough. So I didn't found Dirty Dough. Anyways, I bought it from somebody.
But we'll get into that, right?
Okay.
Is that this natural transition? So you guys, you get out. So the solar business is still running?
No.
Or did you sell that off?
I sold it off. So that first year, though, I worked myself mostly out of the business, and then that freed up some time. And then when there's the opportunity to buy Dirty Dough, I was like, oh, I can buy it because I have some time to figure it out. Yeah,
and to that point, the way I look at, because obviously I've done that here because my background is engineering. So I started actually doing the CAD work, and then I hired an engineer, and then I hired a designer, and then I hired the project managers and sales and so on and so forth. But so the way I always look at it is like an octopus, and each tentacle is a different skill set. And you have to figure out which tentacle you're cutting off first, and then slowly cut all those tentacles off until you're,
The octopus.
Yeah.
Dude, you should write a book.
Yeah. No way. I don't have enough attention to do that.
Dude, okay, let me tell you, I'm writing a book right now, and I also don't have any attention. You just hire somebody, they interview you, then they release a book, and then you pay some money, and they get you on Amazon bestseller, and then it's just for the clout. That's what I'm doing. I think it's supposed to come out in May.
Yeah, write that down, Corey. That's a good idea. I'll be like, listen to all these podcasts, and anytime I say something that sounds intelligent, just write that down. So make a chapter about that.
Legitimately, though, it was 2 or 3 hour-long interviews. And then it was actually, I transcribed, I had my assistant, use some software to transcribe some podcasts. And then she read through those. And
Chat GPT. And then,
I should just write
a book about dough.
But,
so you've replaced yourself, both you and your brother, right? So then,
and then I was like,
did the two of you go in and buy this company together? Or is that where you guys were do your own thing at that point? You guys split up?
Yeah, he kept making fun of me. He's like, "You're going to go into cookies?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time, if he knew, Chip Cookies, all the different cookie companies, right? Like, obviously, Crumble and stuff like that. They're popping off, right? So it makes sense. So you buy it at what age? What age was the company when you bought it? Was it like one location?
One location out of Tempe, and it was losing money.
Okay. But the product was good. You liked the cookies.
Yeah. Well, I saw
in
that
Arizona at the time then, or
I was still in San Diego.
How did you find that?
I went to high school with the dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was already an investor in it.
Mm-hmm.
I came in 2019, gave him some money to open up a storefront.
Okay.
Then when he opened the storefront, I'm in San Diego. I'm like, dude, let's franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be your first franchisee.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't want to franchise. He's like, cookies suck. I want to get out of this. I had my little shaved ice experience, but I've never had like a real food job or franchising experience. Never made cookies, like not my wheelhouse at all. But I was like, I know the owners of Crumble.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they seem like cool guys. They don't seem like super intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that they're not intelligent, kind of back to like the sales mentality. Top sales rep, what is he doing that I can't learn?
Mm-hmm.
What are these Crumble guys doing that I can't learn? Like, it's just making cookies. And I thought I could do it a lot more simple. So the Crumble model was, if you want to buy a franchise, you have to go operate it yourself. How many people want to buy a business? I mean, a lot of people want to buy a business, but how many people want to buy a job?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, that's not that attractive. What if I can simplify this so you can buy the franchise and scale and open up multiple franchises without you living in the store and being a baker? So
do you find the operators and then sell the franchise with the operator then?
No. What we did, so this is the cookie model of all the companies that I know of here, like the Chip and Crumble and Crave or Cookie Co., whatever they are. They give you a recipe. You hire your own employees. You get your own mixers. You train them to, scoop the flour properly so there's not air bubbles, but it's not packed. And then you mix in small mixers, 60 cookies at a time. Then you grab the raw dough, you place it on a scale till it weighs, 5 ounces, 6 ounces, whatever your cookie size. You put in little pieces of dough. And then once it weighs just right, then you're going to form it by hand, roll it on the table. It's just, it takes forever.
Yeah.
And it's very inconsistent. So what if I could automate all of that and then give the franchisees a cookie dough puck?
Yeah, frozen.
And then they just put it in the oven.
That makes sense.
So now, under that model, you can open up your storefronts for half the cost.
No, less machinery.
Less machinery.
Less labor.
Less square footage. There's no more flour or sugar, which causes the mess in the store, so less cleaning. No more hand weighing anything, so your labor, and this was during COVID, it's like, and it was all about labor, like, because nobody could find employees.
Right.
So like, okay, for the same dollar of revenue, if I could do half the labor, like that's killer.
Right.
So that's the model we developed. We just needed to find a machine that produced a gourmet, like multi-flavored cookie, but you could mass produce it. And we found.
So does it like extrude it into like a tube and you slice it?
Yeah.
Cool.
It does it all, and then it does these 3-layer cookies.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So like a peanut butter dough on the outside, a chocolate dough in the middle, and then hot fudge center.
Sweet.
So that first year is kind of like, what are we doing? How do we do develop the model? And after about 6 months in,
is this what you did before the first location? In the first location, he was still hand making them.
Yeah.
And then you go in, you're like, okay, the unit economics, something's off here. So these are the steps we need to take to automate it.
Exactly.
Great.
So like the first, before we found this machine, we had some guy weld like little cookie molds, and we were like stuffing it in there, and like, it was a mess, but we were going through how do you
it's a fun
make
building
this
experience.
Efficient though. And then, and then we found a machine, and we bought the machine, and we're like, oh yeah, this solves all of the problems. Okay. And then now let's take the machine out of that Tempe store, let's throw it in a warehouse, and now we can centrally order everything, and then you're getting 20% off of your flour and sugar compared to these other cookie companies, because you can buy a truckload at a time. You don't have to go through third-party vendors anymore. So it's kind of the model. And now we're mixing here in Utah. We mix a few thousand cookies per batch rather than 60 cookies a batch.
Right.
We use professional bakers rather than teenagers. And then rather than hand portioning them, which is super expensive and very inconsistent. Go buy a box of cookies from one of these other cookie companies and weigh them all. They all weigh different. Go do that to ours. Everyone's the exact same.
Yeah.
And then the quality control is done most everything is done at a corporate level. Now our franchisees, you don't need to be an expert baker because you will never measure flour. Just put some in the oven, right? And then that's also reducing waste a lot.
Yeah.
So that first year is kind of developing the model, and then we franchised. We sold our first franchise in December of 21. I sold the solar company in June of 21. Just trying to do both of the. It was just too much.
Yeah. It's hard. It's probably hard to do that unless like I can only do 4 businesses in here because they're all using the same resources.
Yeah.
Versus solar and cookies, obviously.
Yeah, it was very different. So I didn't think I was going to sell the solar because it was just a sales org, but the opportunity, somebody wanted to buy it, so we sold it.
Yeah.
And then I dove full time into cookies. So we started selling franchises in December, started building a good team, and it was key to find somebody that knew what the hell they were doing because I didn't. So we hired Jill as our CEO. She started Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee in 83.
Wow.
So she
great background.
Took that up to just under 700 locations, sold it, started a franchise development company, was hired as a CEO of another company out of Utah called Totally Nuts. If you've ever been to like the Vivint Smart Home Arena, they sell those nuts.
Those like candied nuts?
The candied nuts, yeah. Okay. I think that was like 0 to 90 in a few years. And then, this is our 40th year as CEO of a franchise brand.
That's incredible.
So I'm like, Jill, you could run this.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the money really we didn't have revenue to pay her, but I was like, well, I'll go knock doors.
Yeah.
I'll go sell a solar
franchise.
Oh, no, I'll go sell solar to pay her salary.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
I love that.
No, I never had to.
Yeah.
Because who's going to buy a franchise?
I like that mentality though.
Yeah. Well, who's going to buy a franchise from me? Nobody's going to buy a franchise from me. Who's going to buy a franchise from Jill? Everybody wants to buy a franchise from her. So my time is better spent knocking doors in solar and paying her salary. Again, I never had to do that, but that's why I hired her because I was like, we don't have the money, but if I need more money, I'll just go knock doors. So she came on and we just started building a superstar team. Same thing, Josh over our production, and because now we're a food manufacturing company. We're also a logistics company as well. So I had to hire an all-star in both of those.
You guys own the trucks, the refrigerated trucks? Wow.
And then we had to, we got a really good team of advisors. And then, we just started selling franchises. We opened our first franchise in June of 2022. And then now we're in February. Yeah. So what is that? 6, 7, 8 months? 8 months later, and we have 12 stores open and over 300 that we've sold. And we have 1 or 2 opening every week.
A platform that's incredibly scalable.
Yes.
Yeah. So like your chassis strong.
Yeah.
So big plans for the future.
Yeah.
So what states are you're focusing on? Obviously, like Utah, Arizona area. Is that the main focus right now? Or
we have over 300 sold. So we're in Maryland to Florida to several dozen in Texas, California, Oregon. We're all over.
When someone buys a franchise, what's the schedule like? Is it like a 6-month build out? Is it what does that look like?
6 to 9 months.
How much are these franchises? I want one now.
They're like mid 200s.
Okay.
So
that's like common. That's like pretty common these days for franchise models, isn't it? About like 200 or so, depending on like the build out and whatnot, and location.
Crumbles are like 500 to 600.
Wow.
If you go to like a Jimmy John's, something like that, or like a pizza, those are usually $750,000 to $1 million. Like McDonald's are definitely over $1 million. Same with Chick-fil-A.
Big build out.
We're one of the lowest costing franchises.
Makes sense.
So you have basically pay your franchise fee, $40,000, equipment's $50,000, and then your build out. Those are your main expenses. Your build out. Some of them are building out for $70,000, some of them are building it out for $150,000. What was in the location before, what do you have to do to it, all that. But overall, we're opening up these stores on average, half the cost of a Crumble. A lot quicker time. It's like a 2 to 3 month build out, but then you have to find your location, negotiate the lease,
hire.
So it's like 6 to 9 months. From that time
pretty
you sign
quick
to open it up. Yeah.
And then, obviously people are, there's the foot traffic, there's the, people that drive up and get it. You guys do the DoorDash and stuff like that. So that's part of it.
Yep. All the delivery apps.
So then is there a future potentially of doing, like I've seen Ruby Snap at Harmon's, for example, and they're frozen. I'm guessing there's a potential there.
Yeah. Yes and no. We're not going to do that for Dirty Dough. We don't want to compete with franchisees.
Okay.
But our manufacturing arm, Domi Foods, it's a subsidiary of Dirty Dough. And to keep costs low, we do co-packing for other companies.
That makes sense.
So like if you want to start a cookie company,
I don't, but
you can say, hey, can you, we'll produce your cookies, give me the recipe, right?
Cool.
But I don't want to compete against franchisees.
that makes sense.
But can our manufacturing do a wholesale deal with, Harmon's or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah.
If they give us
Just
a recipe.
different recipe or whatever. Yeah. Okay. That's great. So then in each location, how many different recipes are there?
We do eight cookies at a time.
Okay.
So we do 6 permanent and 2 rotating.
So the logistics of that is interesting to think about. Like when someone buys a box of cookies, do they usually get one of each? Or is there like, like some are more than others, but you only do one of each then? Or do you have to for example, the chocolate chip or whatever, like the biggest seller, are you making twice as much of that compared to some of the other flavors?
Yeah.
And you have that figured out?
Yeah, I mean, we're still figuring it out.
And I'm sure regionally
we have
that'll
data
change.
Analytics plugged in. We just don't have all the data for it to be... They say that it'll be 95% accurate once we get all the data, right? But we're not there yet. So the good thing is it's a frozen product. But you're not ever going to waste it, So you can keep several weeks worth of inventory if you need. So we're not worried about running out because you just keep it in there. And then if you ordered a little bit too much one week, just order a little bit less the next week.
Yeah. So then scaling the logistics side of it, if you're going like Maryland and, East Coast, West Coast and stuff like that, are you going to do all of the manufacturing here in Utah, or are you going to start opening regional facilities?
We'll do 2 or 3 nationwide. So we have our here. We'll do another one probably in Tennessee. Maybe one in like Iowa or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not that expensive to ship them. We ship them to one of Cisco's 26 distribution centers, and they do the final leg for us.
Got it.
So we do the first leg, they do the final leg.
And all that stuff.
Yep.
That's a fast build.
Yeah.
So you've learned a lot in the last couple of years for you. Has just been...
Yeah, it's been 2 years. 2 years and a month.
Yeah, like a lot of learning.
Yeah.
A lot of figuring out a model that just doesn't,
going with it, man.
So who's the person by your side that's like the operational side of this? That's the, helping you. Like, I always think of like an entrepreneur a lot of times like yourself is like either sales or they're like the expert in the field that they're selling, or they're ADHD like me and they have too many things going on. They need to surround themselves with operators in each bucket. So how quickly did you find that operator? Was that like one of the first things you brought on other than the CEO or what?
Yeah, from right at the beginning, I had some partners, and one of them was the operator. When we brought on an advisor, John Richards, took a course called Startup Ignition.
I've heard of that, yeah.
It's amazing. Like I just sold a solar company. I was like, oh, what is this guy going to teach me? Well, he's done multiple billion-dollar companies.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a different ballpark, Yeah. And he's like, you have to set up vesting agreements. You have to, he's like, no, you cannot do it part-time.
Yeah.
So even after I sold the company, I still had a salary. I was still making a lot in stocks. And he's like, if you want this to succeed, you have to walk away from all of it. I was like, no, John, like, you don't understand. This is like 1 or 2 hours a week. And I'm making, multiple 6 figures a year for a few hours a week. Like, I'm going to keep this. He's like, do you want my advice or not? And I was like, F you, dude. Anyways, I walked away from it all. I just completely, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to do this.
It's a big operation.
And it paid off. So anyways, to answer your question, I did have like an ops person. I ended up buying him back out, bought out all my partners. And then that's probably about when Jill came on. And then we hired a COO maybe 6-8 months ago. He was a global director of operations at Domino's, COO of Costa Vida, and then he was the CEO of Swig.
Okay.
So we brought him on.
Comparable model, Swig, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they serve cookies as well.
Yeah.
They do mainly sodas, but but no, we have a really, really good team. But I would say like Jill's the one, like she's getting it all done. But and then she has operators under her. We have a few in-store ops. We have franchise support. I mean, yeah, it's grown. I don't even know everybody's name because I don't hire them.
Yeah, I get you.
Because she's just going.
And then, of course, you guys get a ton of media. this last year, and any press is good press. So what's that all about? See, I thought I was interviewing. You were a cookie maker at a competitor, and then all of a sudden you start your own cookie. That's what it sounds like, right?
It does. Yeah,
publicly, that's what they make it sound like.
Yeah, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
So Crumble asked me to come do franchise sales for them in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up to talk to them about it. And this is like one meeting.
Yeah. You're doing your due diligence or learning.
I kind of was asking the question, and I'm like, I'd rather go sell solar, because that was the summer I was going to transition to solar.
Mm-hmm.
During that meeting, they started talking about franchises. Though I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'd be interested in buying a franchise. Tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to move out of Utah, and you have to operate yourself. I'm like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one meeting, and that was the whole conversation. And then they come out and in the lawsuit, they say that I applied for a sales job, and I'm like, show me my resume.
Mm-hmm.
I never freaking applied. You guys asked me to come in, never applied. And then I applied to be a franchise. Show me my application.
Yeah.
Never applied for shit. You guys asked me if I wanted to buy a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And so they haven't produced any of those documents because they don't exist.
Yeah.
So they filed just a stupid bogus lawsuit with just a bunch of fluff in it. And
I'd say it worked in your favor.
Oh yeah, massively. What they did, which is the stupidest thing that they could have done. So before, when I said they're smart guys, they are smart guys, but this was a stupid decision for them.
Mm-hmm.
They took a company that had 0 franchises open and they sued them.
Mm-hmm.
In the public's eye, it's like Dirty Dough versus Crumble.
Yeah.
It's not Dirty Dough versus Crumble. Crumble has 700 locations. Dirty Dough has 1.
Yeah.
We're not on the same playing field, but people didn't know that. They're just like, oh, wow, there's 2 companies battling.
Hey, where's this Dirty Dough? I want to try some of these.
Yeah. And then, I just explained our model versus Crumble. It's clearly
different.
Hands down, it's way better. Nobody's going to look at the 2 models and be like, oh, I want the Crumble model and make my own shit.
The product is different. Comparing the product is very different. And
that's the thing that always, cookie.
When I saw when I heard about the lawsuit and I knew the differences between the cookies, I was like, but that was clear.
Yeah.
You got the stuffing and all that stuff. And
there's not 2 cookies. A cookie's a cookie, right?
Yeah.
You can't sue over a cookie even if they look the exact same.
Yeah, but
you couldn't get 2 cookies that look more different.
Yeah.
They do inch of frosting on a flat cookie. We do stuffed cookies with no frosting.
Yeah.
You couldn't get more different.
Yeah.
But that put us, it gave us national attention because we made fun of it and we did billboards and we, hired professional actors and just had fun with it.
I saw the ad. Did you do that with Travis? With Chambers? The ad? No? Who'd you do that with?
We did Buck Wild Media.
Okay. So that was funny. I even shared that. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
They did a good job.
Yeah. With the Christian walking. I know that guy.
Dude,
Christian walking up he's a funny guy.
He's awesome.
Walking up down the hallway with his posse and stuff.
Yeah, man.
That was great.
They did a great job on that. And then between that and the billboards, people really liked kind of the David versus Goliath story.
Mm-hmm.
Dozens of local news stations and dozens of states picked it up, and then CNBC, and then Good Morning America, Wall Street Journal. And what it did is it put eyes on us. Just kind of what you were saying. It's like, oh, wait, why are they suing them? And you read a little bit, you're like, oh, their cookies are the same. But then you go to our website, and you're like, wait, this is completely different.
Yeah, where you get them and you see them. It's very clear.
It put the eyes, we already had the model that is a lot easier to run. Just hands down, it's an easier franchise to run. We just needed more eyes on us, and they gave us those eyes. So when they filed the lawsuit, we had 60 stores sold. So we were on a good track. Nothing came out of the lawsuit, though, for another 45 days because it was kind of like, oh, this is stupid. Well, KSL picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
So 45 days went by, then KSL picked it up, and that's when we started our response because we're like, well, if the media is going to come out, we're going to control the narrative. This is silly.
Yeah.
We had 90 franchises sold. Fast forward to now, we have over 300 sold.
It was
so you couldn't. There's nothing that would have spurred our growth more.
You don't have to educate anybody. Wow, they really screwed themselves with that.
I think that's the worst thing. And now we're as far as anything that I know. You're good. The mic, dude.
Yeah.
As far as franchise sales, now, we only have a dozen open.
Yeah.
Right. But we are opening them every single week now until all 300 are open.
Yeah.
And from everything I know, we're their largest competitor now.
Yeah.
And that was, it's been 8 months since they sued us.
Wow.
And we definitely weren't, anyways. So they're great. Crumble has amazing marketing for them and for us. They just kill it.
Yeah, they have good branding and stuff, like, yeah. And then I see the Chip, which is like, Chip is local, right?
Yeah,
they're a little smaller, right? But the thing about Chip is like the variety's not there. So I always thought that was like, they put one right by my house, and I swear, like, no one goes to it in Murray.
Okay.
I
don't know where that Chip is.
Exactly.
They have a good product.
It's like kind of tucked on a little side street, so it's hard to see. But their product is good. But it's like, that location, I don't.
They've been around for like 6.5 years, I think, and we already have more locations than them. Within a year of franchising.
Yeah,
because they didn't franchise; they did corporate. Now they're franchising, so I think they're gonna start growing pretty quick. But it's I don't think it has the staying power. The margins just aren't there. The margins in cookies are not there if you do it by hand.
Yeah,
they are there if your crumble and your average store does 1.7 million.
Yeah,
but that's not sustainable. You can do 1.7 million when you're in freaking Oklahoma and no other cookie stores are there. But as other cookie stores pop up, the margins, everybody goes lower. And I mean, they reported on because they report financials. If you're a franchise, their lowest store did $750 million and only pulled in 33,000. And just like, wait, what? You could pull in $750 million, but you're only taking home 33 grand. Like, wow. I just don't think that's a sustainable model at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I wonder if that's why part of the reason why Chip only does a select few number of cookies. I
don't know if it's that. I don't think it's the flavor. I mean, whether you do only chocolate chip or you do
they have like two flavors.
Either way, you're weighing everything by hand,
right?
Which is hard.
Wow.
But it's good if you're the only one, right? You're fat and happy until competition, and then everybody, the top line goes down. So what's your bottom line? And you have to have low labor, low cost of goods, low waste, low square footage, and I think we're the only ones doing that.
Yeah, and so with all this as you're building, is there like, do you have like an exit plan with it, or do you like you want to do this for the next 10 years? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think 5 years is kind of 5 years and reevaluate
once that capital gains tax goes away.
Yeah. Well, you do get a qualified small business tax exemption. You keep a business for 5 years as a C corp.
I do that right away for that reason.
Check your exit. Whatever you have to do. So we'll keep it for at least 5 years. Now it's a lot more. I've still never made cookies. Like if you go into Dirty Dough, it has a big mental health push, and all the different packaging has different like mental health messages because it's what's on the inside of our cookies, right? Yeah. Dirty dough means the dough is dirty because we focus on the inside because we know the inside is what's important.
Cool.
So that's what I'm more passionate about. Cool. So within 5 years, we want to open 1,000 franchises. In conjunction with our nonprofit Life is Sweet Foundation. Oh. We want to open up 1,000.
Nonprofit too?
Yeah, dude.
This is moving real quick.
We want to do 1,000 wellness centers. So you contact a school, K through 12 school, and I mean, they're popping up all over, like Utah, but all over the nation as well. I've visited a handful in Utah Valley around me. I didn't even know these existed. But you're converting an old classroom to a spot where kids could come learn about mental health. So the way that they work, the way that ours are going to work, you come in and the kids are, there's somebody there and they check in and you're identifying your emotions. So it's getting kids to, like, what is the difference between angry and frustrated, sad, depressed, whatever. You identify your emotion, then you go pick an activity, whether it's breathing exercises, different breath work, or gratitude and you're writing gratitude cards, or guided meditation, or you're just coloring, right? You do that for 10, 15 minutes. Then you identify how you're feeling on your way out. So it's getting kids to identify emotions, be comfortable with what they're feeling, and then know the different tools that they can use and how to regulate that. Because I mean, I'm sure you mentioned ADHD. That's probably all of us, dude.
I'm still learning about myself with all that.
But the stress that happens in life, especially in the entrepreneur world, like I do all of that stuff. Like I'm big into like the meditation and the ice baths and the sauna and like I look at like these bright lights in the morning to rise cortisol levels, reset melatonin. Like I'm very big into. I didn't know any of that though in school. And now when you start playing at a different level and your business will start growing and you're getting investors and anyway, it's just more stressful. Like I have dozens of people counting on me for a paycheck. How do I manage that mentally? So I want to teach kids early on how to do that, including my kids, because the stats out there are effing scary. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the F word on here, but
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, so that's what I'm super passionate about.
That's amazing.
Is that mental health side. And then the other, I guess, leg of the business or the purpose is entrepreneurship, lowering the barrier of entry to entrepreneurship. Now, not saying entrepreneurship's for everybody, but the people who want to get into it, it's very empowering. It's been very empowering for me. So how do I lower that barrier of entry? Well, let's give them a model that's easy to run, that doesn't require a ton of employees, that is half the cost of any other, of the competition. And we also do mobile franchise trailers. So that's even half the cost. That's just like $100,000.
Yeah.
But you can lease. You could do like a 0 down lease for that. So now you can have a mobile cookie trailer you could take to events, and you can make great money off of it. I think
do
it's
it on your own time and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so now you can own a good business for maybe, I don't know, $30,000 down, and then you finance the rest.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we empower more people to be entrepreneurs? And kind of going back to Jill, this is her 40th year as a franchise, as a CEO of a franchisor brand. Well, she still has franchisees that she signed up 40 years ago.
That's amazing.
Like, how cool is that? That you see people buy business,
changed their lives.
But it's generational. I mean, who's still running it 40 years later? It's their kids, right? Their kids are running it. So when you can pass on a generational business, generational wealth, I mean, like, that's my dream.
Yeah.
Like, I want to empower people like that.
I like that.
So that's kind of
that's
big
part
picture.
of the podcast you're working on. In
Deeper than dough.
Yeah, talking about that. I like that.
More than money.
Wow, that's exciting. So then you have long days.
I have some long days.
Yeah.
I've had long days the last 2 weeks. Usually I don't, though. Usually
I do try to cut myself off at 5 because I could have long days too. I'm like, I could, and of course, having the China office, I'll do like 2 calls a week or whatever with the China office and stuff like that. But, I try to keep those even short.
No nights, no weekends, end at 5. The last 2 nights I had some cocktail event with some family office. I don't even freaking know.
Yeah.
Usually, and I get invited to something
like socializing
like
stuff
10 times a week. Like, oh, come to this event. And I always just say it's a hard no every single time.
Yeah.
Unless like this one we sponsored, it was like 90 family offices.
Yeah.
And I got to, go rub shoulders with
have those
freaking all these people with $1 billion funds. But usually it's like, no, I'm done at 5. And that was hard for a while to tell people no. Like all these events and most of them are networking, and I know they'd be helpful. But now when I respond, it's not like I can't. I used to say, no, I can't make it. And then they just keep inviting me.
Yeah. And
now I just say, I don't work past 5. Yeah. So if you do an event during the day, I'm there. If you don't, I'm not there. Like never.
I stopped going to those. I don't really, some would say I don't get out much with it. Like, a lot of people don't know who I am because of it. Right. But my clients do. And the industries that I focus on, we have exposure there. But
there's some out there that they do them in the day. And I'll go to those. So
like lunch and stuff like that.
Yeah, like one I just joined, I'm really excited about. It's called Truss, TRUSS. Anyways, they do a monthly lunch, and then they do like 2 larger vacations. So the first one's in Tahoe, and I get to bring my wife. And I brought my wife to one. We went to Moab a few months back. So like if it's a few days, it's like, well, I want to bring my wife. And then there's another one with Belize. She's not coming because of scuba diving. So that one's just for me. But like,
yeah, that's fun. So that way you're getting a break. You get to, enjoy yourself, but also you're connecting with people of value and
and then then the monthly lunch as well. And it's at the lunch. So it's like, if you do, a mastermind thing in the day, I'll come. But in the evening,
yeah, I'm with you there.
Nope. I can't. I got kids.
I haven't, even next weekend, I'm going to go to a trade show, and it's still just like...
Where's that at?
It's in Chicago, the International Home and Houseware Show. And it's like I wasn't going to go because the sales team is going, but at the same time, it's like, well, I have a meeting with Nordstrom and Williams-Sonoma, who we're currently chatting with about Durai and stuff like that. And it's like, well, the FaceTime's valuable there.
Yeah.
And I have friends in Chicago, so I'll go see some friends and stuff. But yeah, it gets harder and harder to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to do that if you set, like, when you're in town, you don't work past 5, you don't work weekends, then, every month or so go out of town. I mean, next week I'm going out of town to Vegas and to Tampa. That's going to be the first time I've gone out for a little while.
Trade shows or what?
A franchise conference. It's like the International Franchise Association. That's kind of the big one. It's like a 4-day. I'm going for 2. but I already have like a packed schedule just because like everybody goes and, kind of go hang out.
Yeah.
And then Tampa, I don't know where I'm going, dude.
Yeah.
These guys wanted to invest, but they wanted way too much. But he was one of like the original Shark from the Shark Tank.
Is it Kevin?
Kevin.
Yeah. I did Shark Tank too.
Oh, sick.
I did Durai. I went on. They never aired it.
Those bastards.
I took a deal on the show.
Oh, you did?
They never aired it, and then after we found out it wasn't airing, I just gave up on the deal. I didn't, obviously it's not worth it if it doesn't air.
Who was the deal with?
Mr. Wonderful.
Okay.
He's actually a very nice guy. He's actually much more low key off camera than on
that
camera.
TV
He's more entrepreneurial friendly too than some of the others. Like I hear Lori's aggressive because we have a lot of clients that have done Shark Tank and stuff like that, and I hear she does her deals are not as good as they seem.
Yeah,
but.
No, I think it's a cool, but yeah, they're super aggressive. People get beat up on that. Anyways, this company got in contact with them, and they're like, fly out, and I'm like, oh, it'll be fun.
I've heard. Well, I've been hit by that. Him and his group.
Yeah, it's very aggressive what they want. About it. But I'm kind of like, so there's another mastermind, and I know a lot of people on that board of advisors, and it's based out of Tampa. So I'm like, I'll go. I stay for one night.
Yeah.
Go for the day, and fly back the next night. So I'll go meet with them. I think, there could be some valuable connections, but I'm also kind of like, should I go? Because I don't think, we're like today or yesterday, we decided we're closing our fundraising round. Like we picked who we wanted now. And I haven't told them that, but I think maybe in a future round, right?
This will be out in like a month or so. So you're
okay. Good. Yeah. don't let him listen to it.
Yeah. No, that's always
I think it's a good relationship though. Either way,
everything. Durai is the only company I raised money for. I raised $120,000 back in 2019, and other than that, I've bootstrapped everything. But I've had so many like family office and PE discussions and
wanted
stuff.
to invest.
Yeah, but no, more me like, okay, do the chip off the table type deal, and then grow it with all their resources, and then sell it again type deal, and it's never appealing when you actually get the numbers on paper. It's like, well, I don't need that.
Yeah,
I can wait 5 more years or 3 more years or whatever.
Yeah, like with solar, we didn't raise any money. I funded it. Yeah. But this is a lot larger scale. And
totally.
Like,
yeah.
We need $4 million for equipment.
There's a point where you need money, and then there's obviously like debt tools and stuff like that for the consumer product side of the businesses. Like, thankfully, there's a lot of debt tools that are easy to that are built around the model, and they're easy to tap into, and you can get as much money as you need as you scale. Yeah. Versus something like that, I can see you need a lump sum.
Yeah, and we're raising, and it's really, it's just me, and there's some advisors have a little bit of a few percent, some stock options for employees, and then we did raise money last June. It was like 800 and something thousand. And so we gave away like 8%.
That's a good deal. Yeah.
But now we're raising it over twice the valuation again. So for a few million, we'll, give away another, 10%. So I kind of look at it as, can we grow without it? Maybe. But I have 300 franchisees that I can make sure they're successful, and I don't care about the equity.
And also, if you remove that minimum cash balance aspect, that removes a big chunk of stress from you, where you can focus on the growth and make sure it's successful. Because 300 locations opening up is a lot to focus on, and the last thing you want is cash flow things getting in your way.
Yeah, and that's really where, because it's like, well, how much are you raising? It's like, well, really, we're selling so many franchises, we don't need to raise. Like, it's going really well, but I don't want to run the business off of franchise sales, and just in case. So I'm kind of preemptively, and going back to our advisor, he's like, dude, if this succeeds, you can sell for $1 billion. Yeah. If it doesn't succeed, then it doesn't succeed. Will it matter if you have 70% or 60% if you sell for $1 billion? Like, your lifestyle doesn't change.
You still got a PJ.
Either it doesn't succeed, and that 10% doesn't matter, or it succeeds and the 10% also doesn't matter, because your lifestyle doesn't change with that amount of money. So I'm very grateful for his advice on that. And I'm like, I don't care to give away, even if we don't technically need it. Everybody's like, guard your equity. I'm like, that's not my purpose. My purpose is empowering entrepreneurs and building these wellness centers. And I can do that with more cash and less equity. And that's fine.
Yeah, you still have plenty.
Yeah, I mean, now self-control. And that's really what it comes down to.
That's great, man. I didn't know. It's cool to hear the side of the story versus the very, very high level, understanding that I had about it from the media, like you're saying, how much it twisted it. And then I think the mission and then also the side, nonprofit side of things, I think it's pretty awesome what you're building.
When I sold the solar company, I was working the nights and the weekends. And I was like now I'm even thinking like when my wife talked to me that night, like I'm in my house in San Diego and she's like, hey, I need you to do this for the kids or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm working. Yeah. I just feel even today, I feel so bad about that because I'm like, I should have been with my family. And she was very, I guess, supportive, maybe too supportive because she's like, okay, if you're working, I'll leave you alone. But I just felt terrible about that. Yeah. Anyways, I sell the business thinking, okay, now I have the money. I have some rental properties, blah, blah, blah. Now I can not work nights and weekends. Well, I still work nights and weekends like 2 weeks later. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? So I took a hard pause in my life and it's like, okay, what the hell am I doing? Yeah. And that's kind of when I went and really did some soul searching, really got into my own personal mental health of who I am, what I want to be known for, what is my mission, what are my core values. And I kind of went down that whole path and I got really clear. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I've had money. I have money. I live a good life. I want to make a difference.
You can change that pace a little bit.
I want to spread as much joy and fulfillment to other people as possible while also obtaining it for myself.
That's great. On the real estate side of things. So that is that something that you've just kind of done on the side?
Yeah.
What do you focus on? Do you do rental property? What do you like to do? Residential?
I've done some Airbnbs. I still have an Airbnb right now. It's just residential. Yeah. Okay. Single family homes. Well, I have one. This was a good deal. It was a duplex with 12 bedrooms and we rent out. We have 13 tenants.
Wow. Is that near a school or something?
Yeah, BYU. It's in Provo.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Don't tell the city, though. I don't think I'm supposed to have 13 tenants.
You can have only 4 of a different family. Is that how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'm sure they don't listen to this, so you're good.
That was a good one. I mean, because that's kind of a little mini apartment complex, cash flows really well.
And then is that something, too, that as you think about scaling, buying the co-packing facility and stuff like that, getting the commercial as you grow, is that also part of the plan or naturally?
We have some clients that we're picking up on. The Josh Steele is the guy who runs that, and he's phenomenal. He's an entrepreneur to the T. He's running his own thing inside of Dirty Dough. Domi is his baby. And he's just getting deals done. He's like, great. Oh, I picked up this client. They'll bring in $40,000 a month starting next month. I was like, well, how much is that going to cost us? Nothing, because I'm going to rent the machine. I was like, yeah, but don't we have to source the ingredients and we're going to need a line of credit? He's like, nope, they're going to ship us the ingredients. They're just renting line time and we upcharge them. I'm like,
that's awesome.
You're the man.
That's great.
That's really going to start scaling. And he's been talking with a lot of the big box stores the Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco, and things like that.
And those deals are game changers.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a few million, minimum order. Yeah. And, but you also have to, they're shopping now for who they want to use in the fall. Yeah.
So you have time to prepare and you can get things set up and all that stuff.
So I'm pretty excited about that and really reliant on Josh, but he's been doing such a great job. I'm franchise focused and the rest of the team is franchise focused, but Josh and his team, he's
manufacturing.
We're manufacturing and I'm going to lower the cost for Dirty Dough by bringing in other franchises. And we've done that. We sell the cookie pucks to the franchisees and we started selling them for $1.20, including shipping. And then we lowered it to $1.10 and then we're going to lower it again to $1.05 here pretty soon.
Getting better margin for your franchisees. They're stoked about
and obviously we can keep the margin for ourselves, but it's that's...
But you want
our franchisees have to crush
it. You want to incentivize it more franchisees.
And then they're going to want to buy more. They're going to, So
that's great.
I want to do whatever we can to really lower that for them as much as possible, especially as the cookie market becomes more competitive. Everybody's, stealing from each other's cells per se. So we need to get them higher margins. And to do that, we already have a facility. Let's rent out the facility to other people. Let's, other companies are buying flour through us, a few truckloads a month. So that lowers our pricing, lowers their pricing. We make a little margin on that. So,
well, that's great. So let's talk about some of these, a lot of big takeaways, right? You mentioned some good stuff. What are some of the main ones that you would leave behind?
Sales is super important.
It's always number one. I think I always see it as number one.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to sell yourself to get started. You got to sell the product. You got, I'm with you there.
I built the company with the sales mindset. I didn't say, here's my franchise, who wants to buy it? Mm-hmm. I pitched it to 100 people. And I said, look, this is what I'm thinking. What if there's a franchise that you only needed 1 or 2 people to run, and all they're doing is putting some in the oven? Mm-hmm. And then you get the feedback. Oh, that's a good idea, but what about this? Oh, what about the waste? What about the... And then I just built what I knew I could sell by going out to the market, kind of pre-pitching it, and then going back and formulating. So I know how to sell something, and I know what people want and what they don't want, and then I'm just going to go create that, rather than creating a product and trying to sell it. So I think I did a little backwards. I did it with the sales mentality, and that was really...
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah, that was really helpful. The focusing on who you are and what you know more than like who's going to give you the best paycheck. I would have probably made a lot of money if I just stuck with one summer sales company, just built teams. But I was switching, and every time I switched, it's kind of the 80-20 principle. If I come work for you for a year, even 6 months, I'm probably going to learn 80% of what I'm going to learn from you in the first 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And I can stick with you for 10 years and learn 99%, but there's that diminishing return. So I switched companies, and I purposely switched industries. Mm-hmm. So I did pest control, and I even did satellite for a little bit. The company went out of business after a few months. Anyways, so, and it was just like, okay, can I make more money doing pest control or satellite? Probably pest. Like, I just made $250,000 my first real summer doing it, but what's going to make me a better salesperson? Well, I'm going to go sell a different product for a different company and learn what they have to teach me. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Vivint, and then I went to Solar. So focusing on what you're learning and your skill set more than money, I think has been very beneficial. The E-Myth Revisited, like that's a crucial book to build the business correctly from day one. So you have the vision to get out of the business, not because you're not going to work on the business, but it's so you can work on the business rather than in the business.
Yep.
So that was super helpful. Advisory board, I didn't even know what the hell that was. I didn't know you can get a guy that's had a $1 billion company on your advisory board for 1.5% equity vested over 2. Like, I didn't know that I could go offer that to somebody and somebody would take it. So we have him. We have Eric Van Horn, who's like the franchise guy. We were on his podcast one time. He sold 40 franchises, collected over $1 million in revenue from one episode.
That's incredible. You won't get that from this podcast. Sorry.
But like, he's very influential. Good old
Building an advisory board is something that a lot of entrepreneurs they don't do. Well, they don't do soon enough, I think.
Yeah, because why would an advisor want to be on your board if they're successful and you're like some stupid little kid? You know, that's kind of what I thought. But anyways, you get the right person, and then people want to be involved if they're the right person, right? Like, if somebody's done a few $1 billion businesses, they're like, oh, if he's on your advisory panel, that might say something. Now, how do you get that person? Well, that comes back to sales, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got to sell them on it. You got to sell them on the vision. So we got him. Steve Hart's also on our advisory board. He owns the largest property management franchise. And we just locked down 2 others, and we're capping it at 5. But a guy named Randy Garn, he's Chief Strategy Officer over a $20 billion fund. And then Scott Peterson, he was led the BYU entrepreneurship program for a decade. Every year they were top 5.
That's a solid board.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, people buy franchises from them on the board. They still won't buy them from me. I'm still an idiot, but it's kind of building around that. And it's only a few equity percentages or 0.5% to get people like that.
And then when you
a 0.25%
sell it one day, like you said, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if anything, it'll accelerate the value they bring they pay for themselves easily.
I mean, to get all of them on our board and able to pick up a phone call at any time, it's less than 5%.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, they're bringing in players that are buying 10 or 20 franchises and bringing, a few million in the company. It's like, well, that's worth it, So building an advisory board, structuring partnership agreements correctly that I learned from my advisory board, and making sure vesting is in place. So if there's partner issues, it's all already, everything's pre-negotiated. If there's going to be a buyout, and who decides when, how that's paid, what the amount is, all of that needs to be negotiated when there's no emotion involved. Right? So that was huge, or else we would have, without that, I bet you we wouldn't, there's no way we would be where we're at right now, because I had the wrong partners. Not that they were bad people, they just, they weren't the right partners.
Yeah.
So
I hear you there.
So that was super beneficial. Purpose-based business. You know, if you're going and it's like, well, I could sell the company right now. We have offers. Like I wouldn't, and I could retire. But I'm not going to because it's not about the money. Like I know what my purpose is. And what gets me excited is building 1,000 wellness centers.
I was going to say, and you feel committed to even those 300 franchisees.
Oh, I have to. I have to.
Like, you
they have to freaking
you can't be like, all right, good luck.
Yeah. But like that's, you know, knowing what I'm actually after and having a mission statement. So my mission statement is to find joy and fulfillment despite life's dirtiness in ourselves and others. Cool. So that despite life's dirtiness is don't wait for me to sell the solar company to experience the Jill. Shout out to Jill. The joy and fulfillment. Like you can't wait for the big exit or the next job or the next promotion or the next house or the next car. Like you're going to get that joy and fulfillment for a freaking second, you know, a week, a day, and it's going to go away. So you need to find something, you need to find a way to find that joy and fulfillment that's lasting and it's during the journey rather than at the finish line.
It's great. That's a great thing to finish on. Any last remarks? I mean, that was a good one. That's cool, man. It's been good to chat. Okay, there it is. Bennett Maxwell, great episode. The things that I really enjoyed talking to him about is one, how he took his skills around sales and has applied that in so many different ways, whether that is obviously selling franchises, but also selling very experienced individuals to be a part of his board or be the CEO of the company or whatever it might be. You know, that skill set of sales he's applied to build something that is extremely scalable and can create massive generational wealth for him and his family. I also like how early in his career, he was less money focused and more knowledge focused and was okay with jumping around from company to company and learning different sales tactics and different ways of approaching a deal and so on and so forth. Basically was a sponge early on in his career and then how over time that continued to stack, you know, skills and techniques of how to grow sales. The other thing that I thought was super valuable is seeing how he had a good eye for opportunity. And once he found a path to whether it was his solar business or obviously the cookie business, he saw that opportunity, dove in, and not only obviously was able to sell what it is he was building, but he got a deep understanding and was very smart with understanding the operations of it. Like for example, the cookie making process, moving to a co-packer like method where they're taking frozen dough, slicing it up, and then distributing it to all their franchisees, saving them the steps of hand mixing and hand forming cookies. They can really control the operations and the output of those shops and the size of the cookies, the amount of ingredients used, and so on and so forth. So I felt like he's not only figured out how to be such a great salesperson, but I think he's also figured out how to become a great operator because he's dove in and, just figured out different types of business models. So another great point that I also agree with, when you're building a company and you get to the point where you could bring on team members and resources and can afford them, it is important to figure out how you're going to replace yourself in various aspects of your, of the business, right? In his case, sales management and building out, a sales team and setting things up so whoever comes in to fill that gap has what they need to execute at the level that he was able to execute, so he can step back and focus on the business at a high level. And this is always something that you see with entrepreneurs where they are just immersed in the business. When you're in the business, it makes it very difficult to grow or, work towards the future. Figuring out how to position yourself in your company so you could work on the business instead of in the business is a great, first step when you're building a new company to focus on. And a book that he recommends that talks about this is called E-Myth Revisited. So I would check that out if you want to learn more about how to achieve that type of positioning in your company. The other thing that I also see is super valuable, and I've always surrounded myself with mentors and advisors, is building a strong board of advisors, especially with the scale that his company is already currently at, and how quickly it got there. You need experience surrounding you when you're especially dealing with that much, that many locations and franchisees and so on and so forth. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So on top of building an advisory board, building a strong executive staff, so like Bennett did by hiring Jill, who has a massive amount of experience in the franchise space, and changing where he's located in the business to bring on a super experienced CEO is a big step, but can also be an incredibly valuable step in scaling, the business as a whole, but also just the value of the company, going into fundraising and so, et cetera. So I've done the same thing with my company, Durai. I hired Alicia, who I'm personally not the best at e-commerce and growth on, online sales. My background is the product side of things, the engineering, the manufacturing, the sourcing, that type of stuff. I hired Alicia, who has her deep-rooted backgrounds in e-commerce, working with Amazon, Walmart, and Walker Edison, and, has a very extensive background in it. And I felt like I needed to do the same thing that Bennett did and just bring them on and let them run the show with their existing experience. So definitely a great takeaway about that, and something to start thinking about earlier on in the business. And, it's okay to give up a point or two to do that, because the amount of value you get out of that person's interest in your company and the success of your company can change the end outcome, the exit strategy, the value of it, how quickly it scales, what type of funding you're able to get. So I absolutely agree with them, and definitely something to consider as you're building out your business. The other thing that I really appreciated about what Bennett's doing is not only obviously selling tons of cookies and franchises, but the fact that he's reapplying, the outcomes of that business to the Life is Sweet Foundation and building out thousands of mental health facility across the country. I really appreciate that, because he doesn't have to do that. But the fact that he is applying, the capital and the growth and giving back right off the bat of really starting to grow this business is very impressive, and just shows what type of person he is. And I really appreciate, that he's doing that right at the beginning. So I have a lot of respect for that. And I think there's a need, especially in high schools and with the TikToks and all that type of stuff going on. I can see it being much more difficult to be a high schooler these days than it was when I was a high schooler, with so much influence from social media, and all of those toxic things that are in our lives. I really check out the Life is Sweet Foundation. Yeah, thanks for listening. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed talking to Bennett, and I'm glad we were able to connect, because we've stayed in touch since then. And, there's a lot that I could learn from what he's done with Dirty Dough. Follow us on all the social media platforms. New episode next week. Thanks for watching or listening.